This video is going to be about Marilyn Monroe and the art of manifesting according to astrology, and featuring quotes from Marilyn herself that relate to law of attraction. My name is Aaliyah and I'm a spiritual coach, and I have a passion for Western astrology. Check out my website below if you are interested in my services, including your own natal chart readings. If you gain any knowledge from this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing for similar future content. Thank you. For starters, Marilyn's sun was in Gemini, so she was a Gemini. And to have a Gemini in relation to creativity, it would make someone very intellectual and someone who's very in their mind, wanting to explore their mind, wanting to learn a bunch of different things. Geminis often have their hands in different pots, and they have a general understanding of people. So they are great conversationalists traditionally, and they have a lot of different interests. And this would obviously help for creativity. And in Marilyn's case, being an actress and having that ambition, it's not surprising that she's a Gemini. And anyone who's a Gemini would tell you, if you have a lot of Gemini in your chart and very strong placements, there is a natural artistic inclination, which is pretty typical of Geminis. And if it's not artistic, there's still an artistic way of, if it's not artistic in the realm of an actual career, there's still an artistic way of approaching things, a very analytical way, which can also be artistic. So someone who was an engineer, for instance, who's a Gemini, they still embody Gemini qualities in their careers because they're doing something that requires use of the mind, of thinking abstractly. So her being a Gemini had a lot to do with her creativity. And our sun sign, you got to remember, is our ego. It's who we aspire to be. So when we are our best selves, and you're basically the end game that we have for our lives and who we truly want to be, and who we truly are, is our sun sign. So for her to have been a Gemini, she probably really wanted to be someone who was seen as very creative because she herself felt creative. And she also had her moon in Aquarius. And to have your moon sign, which is how you process information, how you process emotions, I'm sorry, not information, emotions, and how you basically handle the world, and how you handle interactions with people, other people's emotions, and just how you process going through the motions in your life on a daily basis when you're not around people, especially. But even when you are interacting with people, the place that you're coming from would be your sun sign. And for her to have her moon, her moon sign, and for her to have her moon in Aquarius, it would mean that she thought very forward thinking. She felt very forward thinking, very progressive, in the sense that the way that she went about her life, she probably was, obviously she was really a big fan of psychology. And so to have her moon in Aquarius, that really makes sense because she was really interested in different methods of processing her emotions. And often those methods could be more esoteric, for instance, or just a little bit more taboo for the times. And that is certainly how she chose to handle her emotions because of some mental illness that ran in her family. So to have her moon in Aquarius, or just anyone in general, to have your moon in Aquarius, when we're talking about creativity or how we feel more inclined or less inclined about psychology or law of attraction and stuff. If you have a moon in Aquarius, you're someone who would be more inclined to think that way or to be more drawn to those subjects. I have a relative who has a moon in Aquarius, and she was definitely the odd one out in her family. She thought much more forward thinking than her family while she was growing up, and it affected her whole life in positive and negative ways. But she was just always the black sheep of her family. She was very different in how she thought and how she related to others. She was just very open with other people, very open-minded, and so this would have also made her open-minded as well. Marilyn Monroe, and she certainly made connections and good impressions on everyone she came in contact with, even for the times. So during the Civil Rights Movement, Marilyn was a star, and she was friends with a lot of Black artists and luminaries at the time, including Ella Fitzgerald, who she helped and did a favor for in her career, if you read about that. So this moon in Aquarius just would aid someone in their creativity, would help them to be more inclined to be a more creative personality because they think broader. With the moon in Aquarius, they feel and they process their emotions and using more esoteric or progressive tools that other people are not using or even thinking of. And so it makes for a much more creative, inclined personality. And she also had her Gemini in the sign of Mercury her Mercury in the sign of Gemini as well. So to have a Gemini Mercury and to be a Gemini, she was kind of a double Gemini in this sense. I always feel like if someone has the same sun and Mercury sign, they are truly their sun sign, because not only do they act like their sun sign, they also talk and think like their sun sign. And so for her to have a Gemini Mercury, it just makes her super creative, someone who thought very creatively, thought very abstractly, and would have made her someone who was really, really keen on intelligence. So broadening and strengthening her intelligence by learning more things about different topics, learning more about people. We would say Marilyn Monroe probably did, and how she probably utilized her Gemini Mercury is learning about psychology, which was a big interest of hers, and just learning about how to deal with people and give people what they need or what they expect from her in order to win favor. And to have a Gemini Mercury, she probably gained a lot of knowledge on whatever topic she was interested in. She was an avid reader, and that would explain just the fact that her mind raced all the time, and she liked to think about many different things and had a lot of different creative expressions, because Mercury is also about expression. So another interesting part of her natal chart, she was a Pisces Mars. And as we know, our Mars sign is how we tend to think of our ambition. It's how we go after things in our life. It's our drive. It's our passion. It's our sexual desires. So to have a Mars Pisces means that she went after her goals, probably she thought of her goals from a different standpoint than the rest of us. She probably thought of them as, otherworldly. She thought really creatively, very abstractly. And to have a Pisces Mars, you're going to be thinking of the dramatics, the stage, how you can express from your soul. So, a lot of dancers, a lot of singers would have a Pisces Mars, or someone who's in the arts would have a Pisces Mars a lot of the time, because they like to use their imagination to create their reality, as opposed to someone who would have a Taurus Mars, who would just think of step by step what they can do and just do things a very traditional way. A Pisces Mars would think abstractly to get their goals, as opposed to logically. So using their mind to create their reality through visualizations wouldn't be so taboo for them. It would just be how they literally create their reality, a very conscious way of creating their reality, as opposed to how most people operate, very unconsciously doing so. A Pisces Mars is very conscious of it, very aware of their power, and they like to use it to get what they want, as opposed to coming, doing step by step by step and thinking that way. Even if they do think step by step, that's not how they're thinking of it. It's not their intention. Their intention is to use their creativity to rather receive it, as opposed to be just a hustler going for it. So that definitely would have added to her creativity, or to a mindset of someone who is open to law of attraction, even for the time that she lived in. Now, the two big ones, she was a Leo ascendant, Leo rising. Obviously, the energy of Leo is very confident, very forthcoming, and has no shame about showing their body, showing who they truly are. You got to remember that Leo is its planet is the sun, and that is that is the ruling planet, and the sun is ego. And Leo is it's not ego in a bad sense a lot of the time, unless you're unevolved Leo. Leo energy is necessary, just like every sign is necessary. And if you have a Leo ascendant, you are someone who shows who you truly are to the world. So how you present yourself, you walk into a room and you fully are yourself. And there's a confidence and ease that comes from that is very magnetic and very alluring to people, which would explain her allure. So having a Leo rising would definitely make someone have the confidence to go after what they want. It's how we approach the world, our interaction, in our interactions. That is our ascendant. And to have that in Leo means there was no fear, in going after what we wanted. And that definitely aids in law of attraction, because you have to have belief in yourself to make things come true for yourself. And last but not least, she had a Taurus midheaven. So our midheaven is our reputation. And for someone to have a Taurus midheaven, that would mean that people who knew them, so like colleagues or family members, their reputation is that of someone who is very solid, someone who likes to do things in a traditional way. But I would say in regards to Marilyn Monroe, it just reflected her level of, her perception of beauty and how she expressed that in her world. So she dressed beautifully. She looked beautiful all the time. Tauruses care about beauty. They really are creative signs, and they care about aesthetics. So someone wanting to make their life beautiful, that's not surprising that they would have a Taurus midheaven, someone who cares a lot about appearances and having the ideal situation. That would mean that this person might be a Taurus midheaven, someone who cares like that about idealization. And idealization is a really big part. Idealization, aesthetics, that's a really big part of manifesting, because you are imagining and visualizing an ideal. And so if you have a Taurus midheaven, you might be more inclined to think in this way. Now, no conversation about astrology will be right if we didn't discuss aspects. So there's some aspects that Marilyn Monroe had in her birth chart that I would say influence creativity, that would make someone's mind be more inclined to think abstractly, which is basically an abstract mind is someone who is more open to or more drawn to practices that are conscious of manifesting and law of attraction principles. So some of the aspects that she had in her chart pretty strongly, one of them was Venus sextile Jupiter. So to have Venus sextile Jupiter in your chart means that you are someone who is a dreamer, and there's a lot of luck in you bringing your dreams to fruition. So Venus is the sign of, it's the planet of beauty, of love, of harmony, and Jupiter is obviously planet luck and abundance and fertility. So to have that in a harmonious blend, those two very harmonious planets would make someone who has strong desires to create luxury and beauty in their life. Beauty is a big part of their life. Aesthetics is a big part of their life. Doing beautiful things and treating people and being treated beautifully is really important to them. It's a value. If you have it in a strong orb, that's something that's a big part of your personality, is wanting to be around beauty, wanting to create beauty in your life. And so obviously having that kind of aspect in your chart, in your birth chart, would make you someone who is more inclined to manifesting, because there's a lot of strong desire to improve one's circumstances. So Marilyn also had Mars trine North Node. So your North Node are your life's lessons, your current life's lessons, and Mars is energy, vitality, passion, and drive. So it would have made Marilyn very driven, very ambitious. But this being in a harmonious aspect, being in a trine, would have been a positive thing. The more she embraced working hard and staying focused, the more blessed she was, and the more she felt fulfilled. So this makes for a more dreamy personality, someone who is really idealistic in nature. And Marilyn certainly was, which is why she wanted better for her life and dreamed for a better life, which is manifesting. Now, She also had Sun sextile ascendant, someone who has the Sun in a harmonious aspect to their ascendant, which is how they present themselves to the world, how they view the world. They would view the world as a place where great things can happen. So it's a very optimistic placement. And so obviously you have to have strong belief in order to consciously manifest what you want. If you don't believe something can happen, then you will not get it. It's a really big and important part of manifesting consciously is having that self-belief. So to have your sun sextiling your ascendant, you might be someone, if you also have this, you might be someone who thinks very good of the world. Like, you're not pessimistic. You're not thinking that things can happen for you. You see the world as a place where you can thrive in it. And this is very essential in creating the life that you desire. And she also had Saturn trine North Node. So not only did she have Mars trine North Node, she had Saturn trine North Node. Having Saturn trine your life lessons, Saturn is discipline and hard work, means that she not only had that perfect blend of dreaminess and idealism, but she also was very strong and she was disciplined to make her dreams come true. So it's having that perfect blend of believing in a dream, having a dream, but also willing to work for it, to bring it into the physical reality. Marilyn would have had that naturally within her as a gift. And if you have that aspect or any of these aspects, then you do as well. And it just makes manifesting a lot easier because it's not something you have to work for. A lot of people have to work on themselves to become more disciplined. But you have Saturn and, your North Node in a harmonious aspect. That is not something you have to work for. It's just an innate part of who you are. And it makes manifesting and making your dreams come true much easier because it's just a natural part of your personality. She also had Venus trine Neptune. And to have Venus and Neptune, these two very beautiful and spiritual in essence planets in a harmonious aspect in a trine, it would mean that the things that she dreamed about and the way that she dreamed, and it was in a harmonious blend with aesthetics and with beauty. So it makes for a very dreamy, very sensual person. And if you are a woman, this will make you a very dreamy and sensual woman, very magnetic, because what you aspire to have, your dreams, which is Neptune, the illusions, the delusions, what you like to project and what you like to see in your world, which is Neptune, is going to be in a beautiful blend with beauty and with harmony. So there's a harmonious and very magnetic way that your dreams will come together. And it's because you think beautifully with Venus and then you dream big with Neptune. So it is a very harmonious blend, and to have that in your birth chart would definitely make you a very creative person, especially if you have that in a strong orb. She also had Venus conjunction midheaven, which means that her reputation combined with beauty and with pleasing, and so it made her very, very, very good with people because she was able to ignite cooperation and just, people really embrace a pleasant person. And if you can be pleasant in your place of work and you can be well liked, it does lead to more success because it leads to more opportunities from people, and it leads to being trusted more within your profession, which can only lead to more success. So you will definitely have more ease attracting people with honey than with vinegar, essentially, with having a Venus conjunction midheaven. And obviously that's going to aid in any manifesting thing that you're doing because you're going to be actually easily attracting what you desire to you without force and without aggression, and just through loving and being kind to people. And it brings your manifestations together more beautifully. Now, she did have a lot of Neptune aspects, and you can imagine someone with a lot of Neptunian aspects that they are a dreamer. This is someone who would be very sensitive energetically, but that is not the only prerequisite for a dreamer, but it would make you more creative. And if you are creative, you probably are idealistic. And if you're idealistic, you probably have a lot of desires. And if you have a lot of desires, you probably would want to see them come true, which makes you more open-minded to law of attraction principles. So you can be watching this video and share the same beliefs as Marilyn, yet hardly have any Neptunian aspects, but it definitely explains a lot when you see someone with a life story like hers, that she'd have a lot of sensitivity to energy with all the Neptune aspects that she has. So now we're going to talk about some houses that may reflect a more creative inclined person, someone who is more open-minded, and someone who is more idealistic, which aids in manifesting consciously and being open to those principles. So her first house, which is the house of identity, also contained the planet Neptune, which would explain that she was a Neptunian woman. So much of how she felt about herself reflected everything else. And with Neptune here, that there's a delusion on the lower octave of Neptune, but on that higher Neptunian level, there's a strong belief in oneself as a creative, as a sensitive being, as someone who's okay with that, who identifies with their dreams, whether they're good or bad. And they naturally, consciously manifest with ease because of this. Her fifth house, which is the house of fun, creativity, and children, was in the sign of Sagittarius. So that fun house being in that very free sign would make her creatively very expansive and boundless. She likely very genuinely felt she could do anything and was confident in her abilities to make her dreams come true. Her eighth house contained the planet Mars, which makes for a very strong person, one that is okay with change, that flows with change, and actually isn't afraid of it and is willing to go within and utilize what one has to create personal change in their life. So this is a very strong personality, someone who is very determined. And like I said before, you have to have both the belief and the go-getitiveness in order to make things manifest in your life. You can't just have one or the other. Now, her ninth house, which is our house of belief and philosophy, and it's like our philosophical area of our lives, contain Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. So this means that she found her strength within her beliefs. She had a tough childhood and she learned strong self-belief. So a wounded Chiron being in your ninth house of philosophy would mean that you may have had it rough growing up, but you were able to pull yourself up from inner reserves. You know, you didn't look outside of yourself for strength through substance or anything else, or through people. It is a very inner strength, and that means that she certainly had that. So her 11th house, which is our house of social connections, community, and philanthropy, contained the planet Sun, or star sign. So she not only understood what she needed to do to have her dreams, but she understood how to relate to others, which is also essential, as I talked about earlier. She was likely very benevolent to those she knew, very generous, and it's always important to be generous and kind and to know how to speak to people, to build connections in general, but especially when trying to achieve something, because support and connections in that regard are very invaluable, and Marilyn certainly understood this. Now here are some quotes from Marilyn herself, which I feel reflect one of the principles of law of attraction, which is to live in the vision. So the following quote is from Marilyn Monroe. "And I used to make up daydreams, not about Mr. Gable, but about my father. When I'd be walking home from school in the rain and feeling bad, I'd pretend my father was waiting for me and that he would scold me for not having worn my rubbers. I don't own any rubbers, nor was the place I walked to any kind of home. It was a place where I worked as a sort of child servant, washing dishes, clothes, floors, running errands, and keeping quiet. But in a daydream, you jump over facts as easily as a cat jumps over a fence. My father would be waiting for me, I daydreamed, and I would come into the house smiling from ear to ear." So that quote perfectly encapsulates how to use the mind to gain a stronger self concept, believing truly by embodying what it is that we want. And the next quote does as well. This is a pretty famous Marilyn Monroe quote. "I daydreamed chiefly about beauty. I dreamed of myself becoming so beautiful that people would turn to look at me when I passed. And I dreamed of colors, scarlet, gold, green, white. I dreamed of myself walking proudly in beautiful clothes and being admired by everyone and overhearing words of praise. I made up the praises and repeated them aloud as if someone else were saying them. Now, these next quotes just really reflect to me what someone with these similar placements has to be mindful of and what Marilyn eventually learned. So we said before her having the Mars in Pisces, which is a very dreamy nature, and a dreamy way of, going about the world, going after one's goals, being very idealistic. Combining that with Mercury and Gemini, which is creative intellect, and the projection that can cause when you are a woman who is in tune with her desires and with herself, the magneticism it evokes, it can be a positive and negative thing. And Marilyn spoke on this by saying, and I quote, "People have a habit of looking at me as if I were some kind of a mirror instead of a person. They didn't see me, they saw their own lewd thoughts. Then they white mask themselves by calling me the lewd one." She also said, "Sometimes I hate the effect I have on people. I get tired of stupid attention, of working people up. It's not really a human thing." So I just wanted to put that in there because I want you to be aware as you are on your journey of self-actualization, basically becoming who it is you truly are and putting that out into the world through personality and through what you create for yourself. I want you to be aware that there will sometimes be people who see this person who is sure of themselves, which you are if you are on the journey to becoming yourself. You start to become confident and self-assertive and very sure of who you are and what you want. This makes you very magnetic. And I want you to just be aware that this can draw negative and positive attention because you will attract everyone to you, everything to you, and it's important to practice discernment. So when going for manifesting something very specific, it's important to be very specific because you don't want to call in accidentally, unconsciously, the wrong thing or something that would hurt someone or something that would hurt yourself or would attract the wrong person that would not help you on your path but actually hinder you. And Marilyn Monroe, I would say those who who know about her life story would agree this happened to her. And a lot of the time it was probably because people projected themselves onto Marilyn Monroe a lot and did not make her life easier in a lot of regards. So just be very mindful when you are manifesting that you are very specific, that you're calling in for protection around your auric field, around your energy, and that you're not letting people project negativity onto you through jealousy or in other forms. Now, I talked a little bit earlier about the importance of combining high self-concept, high self-esteem, and belief, strong belief, with actual gusto, actually doing things and not just dreaming them. And Marilyn had a lot of quotes about that kind of touched on that concept. It's the most important concept to me in manifesting. Before you manifest anything, you should always check your beliefs and do some shadow work, just, which I consider shadow work is just thinking really, really deeply about certain things about yourself. So, for instance, if you want a new car, but yet you think negatively of people who have that car because you are jealous, when you see them driving the car that you want, it will be important before you start consciously manifesting through scripting or affirming or just, thinking by embodying having the car. It will be important to check your beliefs. That way you don't accidentally manifest negative things about your experience of getting that car. So, for instance, coming into the money by negative means, by someone dying and you getting an inheritance, it's important that you don't attract those things. And in order to not attract those things, we can get our minds right first, and we can use our minds to make sure that we have high self-concept, high self-esteem, and what we are desiring is coming from a place of love for ourselves because we know we deserve it. And these quotes kind of embody that for me. So these are all from Marilyn. The first one is, "My illusions didn't have anything to do with being a fine actress. I knew how third-rate I was. I could actually feel my lack of talent, as if it were cheap clothing I was wearing inside. But my God, how I wanted to learn. to change, to improve. I didn't want anything else. Not men, not money, not love, but the ability to act. I couldn't think of anything except acting. I knew about acting. It was a way to live in dreams for a few minutes at a time. I want to find myself way deep inside and enjoy being myself. It isn't easy. Nothing's ever easy as long as you go on living. I ask myself, what am I afraid of? I know I have talent. I know I can act. Well, get on with it, Marilyn. I feel I still try to ingratiate myself with people, try to tell them what they want to hear. That's fear too. We should all start to live before we get too old. Fear is stupid. So are regrets. So these quotes to me really embody that Marilyn really, or they really reflect to me that Marilyn really understood the importance of learning and mastering her craft. So what she wanted very strongly, like she said, was to be a great actress, and she felt incompetent. And so rather than only dreaming of being a great actress, she also put in the work, and she studied and she learned in all the ways that she could. She became a master in a lot of regards in her craft because she studied. So it's very important that you do both, like Marilyn did. And it's a very important part of manifesting consciously is combining that belief with the work in the physical realm as well to bring about your manifestation in the best way that it can come about in its strongest essence, in its most positive and most brightest way, not attaching any negativity or getting what you want and still feeling incompetent. You know, you want to make sure you do the work and prepare for your dream before it even gets to you. And I feel like Marilyn understood that. Another quote of hers, I've always felt towards the slightest scene, even if all I had to do in a scene was just come in and say hi, that the people ought to get their money's worth, and that this is an obligation of mine to give them the best they can get from me. I do have feelings some days when there are scenes with a lot of responsibility toward the meeting, and I'll wish, gee, if only I had been a cleaning woman. On the way to the studio, I would see someone cleaning and I'd say, that's where I like to be. That's my ambition in life. But I think that all actors go through this. We not only want to be good, we have to be. So again, touching on the importance of working to become stronger at your craft, whatever that may be. She also said, it might be a kind of relief to be finished. You have to start all over again. But I believe you're always as good as your potential. I now live in my work and in a few relationships with a few people I can really count on. Fame will go by, and so long I've had you, fame. If it goes by, I've always known it was fickle, so at least it's something I experience, but that's not where I live. She also said, I used to think, as I looked out on the Hollywood night, there must be thousands of girls sitting alone like me, dreaming of becoming a movie star, but I'm not going to worry about them. I'm dreaming the hardest. So those last two quotes, I feel, especially the first one, she totally understood the power of non-attachment. So non-attachment is another aspect of manifesting consciously. You're not supposed to want what you desire so badly that you would be miserable if you didn't have it, because that can actually be a form of resistance and it can actually push your desires away. And it seems that Marilyn understood that because she talks about how much she wanted fame and success, but at the same time, she understands that's not a good place to truly live, you know, not to be so obsessed about it that she'd be miserable if she didn't have it. And she also talks about how she feels that she's dreaming the hardest, even if other people have the same dream as her. This just goes along with self-belief and concept. Even if you have a dream to do something and you know a million other people have already done that thing, it doesn't mean that you cannot do that thing and that it wouldn't be important for you as well to learn the craft of whatever it is that you want, because only you will do it a certain way. Everyone does things from their own essence, from their own inner being and energy. And the way that you accomplish a goal, the way that you bring about something is going to be totally different than your neighbor, even if they're doing the exact same thing in a general sense, it will not be of the same essence, and someone else might be more attracted to your project than they are to your neighbors. So I feel that all those quotes tied into the importance of learning your craft, learning to be the master, being the student first, and understanding that with self-belief and working towards something, you can have exactly what you want. Now, this quote to me really embodies that Marilyn embraced her feminine energy, which is all that Venus and Neptunian energy in her chart, and how this makes someone who embraces their femininity, even if you are a man, I feel like it makes you a more conscious manifester because you are in that position naturally to receive and to attract as a woman. And so understanding that there is a proper use for sensuality, birthing things into the physical world, is really a really important aspect that is often overlooked in astrology and in manifesting. So this quote, I feel like she really talks or touches on an aspect of that. And she said, "Fame has a special burden, which I might as well state here and now. I don't mind being burdened with being glamorous and sexual, but what goes with it can be a burden. I feel that beauty and femininity are ageless and can't be contrived. And glamour, although the manufacturers won't like this, cannot be manufactured. Not real glamour. It's based on femininity. I think that sexuality is only attractive when it's natural and spontaneous. This is where a lot of them miss the boat. And then something I'd just like to sprout off on. We are all born sexual creatures, thank God. But it's a pity so many people despise and crush this natural gift. Art, real art, comes from it. Everything." Now, I touched on this earlier about the importance of self-belief, and I also want to talk about the importance of hope. So I feel like they're pretty intertwined, but they are still two different words and have two different meanings. To believe in yourself means that you know there's something of yourself that can be used for something, something that you want. And to have hope means that you believe in the world being able to provide that for you. So some of the quotes that Marilyn has said in regards to hope are as follows. "To love without hope is a sad thing for the heart. If you feel low, you might worry that there's nothing new to give, but that's not true, not ever. You discover things inside yourself you never knew were there. You always go on developing. When everything isn't going all right, don't brood about it. There's sure to be something better waiting for you if you strive for it. Just be ready for your big chance. Success is up to you, and if you think it's worth it, it will be yours. I paid no attention to the whistles and whoops. In fact, didn't hear them. I was full of a strange feeling as if I were two people. One of them was Norma Jean from the orphanage who belonged to nobody. The other was someone whose name I didn't know. But I knew where she belonged. She belonged to the ocean and the sky and the whole world." Now, the last aspect of manifesting in regards to Marilyn Monroe that I wanted to give some quotes from her in regards to was about determination and our own individual self-will and how that relates to manifesting. It's so important that we don't let things that are our life circumstances keep us from going after what we truly want in life. And, Marilyn Monroe is a great case study for this because we all know how she grew up. She grew up in orphanages around Los Angeles, and she did not have an easy childhood, and yet she still had the hope and the self-belief to pull herself up and become who she always dreamed she could be. And I want everyone to think like that, everyone to know that you don't have to come from a rich family or a family that's well connected. If you come from two parents who both work for warehouses, but you would like to be a doctor, that doesn't mean that you can't be a doctor because your parents are not wealthy, or they have just 9-to-5 jobs. You can always improve your circumstances, and you are of better help to the world when you are happy and doing what you love to do. And that is my strongest philosophy for life. To do what makes you happy, because that is better for the world than just another miserable person. So these quotes reflect Marilyn's self-determination, and I hope they inspire you too. Everyone's childhood plays itself out. No wonder no one knows the other or can completely understand. How do we know the pain of another's earlier years, let alone all that he drags with him? I think to love bravely is the best, and to accept as much as one can bear. You're not a scared, lonely little girl anymore. Remember, you can sit on top of the world, even if it doesn't feel like it. Starting tomorrow, I will take care of myself, for that's all I really have, and as I see it now, have ever had. I'm not afraid to be afraid anymore. As I grew older, I knew I was different from other children because there were no kisses or promises in my life. I often felt lonely and wanted to die. I would try to cheer myself up with daydreams. So to end it off, manifesting is more than thinking positive and trying to stay in a high vibration all the time. One must grow in consciousness through changing their self-concept. Marilyn seemingly got what she wanted out of her life because of her confidence that she grew from affirmations and scripting and visualizing the very things that she wanted. You don't get what you want and then become fulfilled. You have to be fulfilled and embody what you desire and believe you can have it in order to get what you want. So it's important to keep a healthy mental diet when you think of what you want, and when you self-impose the version of yourself you wish to embody on who you are now whenever you look in the mirror or imagine yourself. You can create the life you want, but first you have to believe.